Today's video lesson, I shall be continuing with the line-by-line explanation of the chapter The Happy Prince by Oscar Wilde. Children, in the last class we had read that the statue of the prince had made a request to the bird. Now, what was the request? And mind you, children, this was the second request that he was making. He told that I wish that you could stay with me for one more night. And this time, what did he tell the bird to do? That he must pluck one of his eyes, which was made of sapphire, and quietly go and give it to the playwright. Why? Because the playwright was very poor. There wasn't even a fire burning in his room, and he was feeling very, very cold. He was struggling to complete his play, but he could not because his hands, his fingers, they were numb with cold. Reluctantly, the bird plucked the eyes of the one of the eyes of the prince, and he darted inside the room of the playwright. And how did he go inside? Through a hole in the roof. The young man, what was he doing? His head, it was buried in his hands, and the bird, while she was fluttering, he could not even hear it. She quietly placed the sapphire on the withered violets that were lying beside him. Now let us continue with the explanation, children. I am beginning to be appreciated, he cried. This is from some great admirer. Now I can finish my play and he looked quite happy. Now he says that when he woke up, he found that sapphire lying on the withered violets. He was happy. It motivated him. And why did it motivate him? Because he thought that somebody, out of appreciation for his work, he has sent this sapphire. So it was a great source of motivation. And what did he say to himself? This is from some great admirer. I shall be able to finish my play. And he looked quite happy. At the same time, he was feeling very happy. The next day, the swallow flew down to the harbor. He sat on the mast of a large vessel and watched the sailors working. The bird, during the day, he used to go to the harbor, to the port, and there he would perch on the mast of the vessels. Vessels over here means the ships, children. And he watched the sailors at work. I am going to Egypt, cried the swallow. But nobody minded, and when the moon rose, he flew back to the happy prince. Now he was determined, and he spoke to himself. He told himself that now I'm not going to wait here. I am flying away to Egypt. And at night time, he flew back to the happy prince. I have come to bid you goodbye, he cried. Swallow, swallow, little swallow, said the prince, will you not stay with me one night longer? So the bird said that, dear prince, I have come to say you goodbye. Now I am flying away to Egypt. But the prince, he again requested the bird to stay with him for one more night. Now, listening to this, what was the reaction of the swallow? Let's read. It is winter, answered the swallow, and the snow will soon be here. In Egypt, the sun is warm on the green palm trees, and the crocodiles lie in the mud and look lazily about them. So, children, just underline this. Why does the bird want to fly to Egypt? Because of the warm weather. He wants to enjoy the warm weather. He wants to enjoy the scenery over there. He wants to perch on the green palm trees and also watch the crocodiles who are who have squattered lazily on the mud. So he's saying this to the prince, and he says that see, it's winter time, and the whole area will be covered with snow. There will not be a morsel of food available for me. What will I do here? Let me fly away to Egypt, where the weather is appropriate for me. But the prince paid no heed, as if the prince paid no heed to the to the requests of the bird, and he continued with his explanation. In the square below, said the happy prince, there stands a little match girl. She has let her matches fall in the gutter, and they are all spoiled. Her father will beat her if she does not bring home some money, and she is crying. So the happy prince, he narrated one more incident to the bird, and this time it was a match girl, a girl who sells matchsticks children. What had happened, her matches had fallen into the gutter drain, and they were all spoiled. She was fearing that now if she returns home empty handed, her father would scold her, would beat her, because she had brought home no money. She was crying, and this pained the the prince. He felt very sorry for the girl. Let's see what he does next for the girl. Also, it's written, children, she has no shoes. So she was wearing no shoes. She was barefoot over there, and that too in the biting cold. Okay, let us continue. She had no shoes, no stockings, and her little head is bare. It was already very cold, and she did not wear her shoes, nor was she wearing her stockings, and her head was bare. Pluck out my other eye and give it to her, and her father will not beat her. The statue, it commanded. Little bird, pluck out the other eye and go and give it to the girl. Then she would be saved from the wrath of her father, from the anger of her father. I will stay with you one night longer, said the swallow, but I cannot pluck out your eye. You would be quite blind then. So, what did the bird say? Again, very reluctantly, she said that, okay, I'll stay back, but then I'm not going to pluck your eye, the other eye. Then you will become completely blind. Swallow, swallow, little swallow, said the prince, do as I command you. Now, this was a command given by the prince. So, very sternly, he said that do as you are commanded. So he plucked out the prince's other eye and darted down with it. He swooped past the match girl and slipped the jewel into the palm of her hand. So, as instructed, as commanded, the bird plucked the eye and he darted from that height. She darted down to the girl and swooped past. By making a swish move sound, he just passed through the girl, swooped at a high speed. Okay, children, swooped past. It's a movement word over here with a little sound, the swishing sound. And quietly, slipped means very quietly. He slipped that jewel into the palm of the girl. The girl did not come to know about it. What a lovely bit of glass, cried the little girl. Now, because she was very young and very innocent, she could not value that sapphire. What did she say? Oh, it's a lovely bit of glass. And she ran home laughing, and she was very happy, and she ran home laughing. Then the swallow came back to the prince. You are blind now, he said, so I will stay with you always. Now just see this kind gesture of the bird. He said that, Prince, you are blind now, completely blind. So I have decided to stay by your side forever. So the bird, it decided to stay with the prince forever. The prince, in reply, what did he say? No, little swallow, said the poor prince, you must go away to Egypt. The prince too was concerned about the swallow, and so he said that you must fly away to Egypt. No, I will stay with you always, said the swallow, and he slept at the prince's feet. But the swallow was quite adamant, and what did he say? That I'll stay with you forever, and he went off to sleep at the prince's feet. All the next day he sat on the prince's shoulder and told him stories of what he had seen in strange lands. So he was entertaining the prince. He was narrating to him stories of far away uh, places which he had visited. Dear little swallow, said the prince, you tell me of marvelous things, but more marvelous than anything is the suffering of men and women. Now, the prince, he is very thoughtful and he is very wise. He had attained that wisdom, by standing at that height. Now, that height and that platform is symbolic, children. Now, when you children come to school next, I will be talking about and I will be discussing about the symbolisms contained in the chapter, the hidden meaning, the metaphorical meanings, all I will be talking about. How the story is a satire, how this story is an allegory, all this I shall be taking up either as a separate video lecture, or when you are coming to school next week, I shall take up this uh, offline explanation I will take up. So, dear Swallow, he said that you are talking about marvelous things, extraordinary things, which you have seen in strange lands, but then, the suffering and the pain of men and women, it is also very strange, it is also very marvelous, or it is also very extraordinary. I had not known this before, but now that I am realizing it, I am much in pain. There is no mystery so great as misery. Please underline, children, these sentences, they have very deep meanings, okay? There is no mystery so great as misery. Fly over my city, little swallow, and tell me what you see there. So he says that I want you to give me an account of the pain, of the misery, of the suffering that is prevailing in my kingdom. So please fly around my city and tell me the pain and the suffering. Okay, children, it's not the kingdom, my city. So this has now developed. It's a modern city now, but still the statue of the happy prince was very much there. Okay. So the swallow flew over the great city and saw the rich making merry in their beautiful houses, while the beggars were sitting at the gates. He flew into dark lanes and saw the white faces of starving children looking out listlessly at the black streets. Please underline, children, very meaningful and very important paragraph of the chapter. So the swallow, it followed the instructions of the prince, and what did it do? It flew over the city, and what did he realize? That the gap between the rich and the poor, it was only and only widening. The rich, they were merrymaking, they were happy, they were warm inside their beautiful and comfortable houses, whereas the beggars, they were sitting at the gates. They were only and only symbolizing the vulnerable, the weak, and the people suffering in the society. He flew into the dark lanes, hopeless lanes, dingy, where even the sunlight is not reaching. So, this is again symbolic, children, and so that they are doomed. There is no way out of this darkness. They are in that perpetual state of poverty, continuous state of poverty. There is no way out for these poverty stricken people. And saw the white faces of starving children. White faces over here, pale, dull faces of the starving children looking out listlessly. Children, listlessly means when they lack enthusiasm. Now, because they have not had good food to eat, healthy food to eat, as a result, what was happening? Their face was dull, colorless. It lacked enthusiasm, it lacked energy, and hence they were looking listlessly at those black, dark, dingy streets. Under the archway of the bridge, two little boys were lying in each other's arms, trying to keep themselves warm. So now he came across two boys who were huddled together, very close to each other. They were trying to keep themselves warm under the archway. You know what an arch is, the shape, like, isn't it? The shape of a bow. Okay. How hungry we are, they said. You must lie, not lie here, shouted the watchman. And they wandered out into the rain. Children, it was raining, it was very cold, And those two little boys, they were very hungry. They had taken shelter under that archway of the bridge when they were hauled by the watchman. Now, this word hauled you have read in that chapter on Toto, isn't it? The Adventures of Toto. So I'm going to use this word here, and you are going to tell me the meaning of this word hauled. So they both were hauled by this watchman who shouted at them, and they were forced to leave that shelter. They had to wander out into the rain. They were walking on the road, getting wet. On top of it, it was very cold. So, to make matters worse, they had now no place to take shelter and they were wandering, just roaming about in the rain. Okay, children, I shall end my explanation here. I will continue with the rest of the explanation in the next class. Thank you.